Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome LinkedIn CEO, Jeff Weiner.
Good morning. Good morning, good morning. First of all, how about the band, Spasmatics? Let's give it up for the band. Truth be told, I have always wanted to say, give it up for the band. Never had the opportunity. But you guys are seriously good, so I meant that. So welcome, welcome. It's so great to see all of you here. Talent Connect 2012. It's hard not to look out at this audience and think back to just a couple of years ago, our first event, where several hundred of you met with us in San Francisco at the Palace Hotel. And you see the growth. You know, it really mirrors our audience, our customer base, the way we've been changing the game in recruiting together since that time. So could not be more excited to welcome you all here today. Speaking of changing the game, that's going to be the central focus of our keynote today, talking about some of the more recently introduced products, our focus areas, and where we're going. And we're also going to introduce some new products and services that we're very excited that we believe are going to continue to accelerate the way in which we change the recruiting industry. So with that, let's kick it off. So I'd like to start with an image. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but in this case, I think there's only really a few things that come to mind. Visionary founder, product genius, and perhaps above all else, a single word, talent. After all, Steve Jobs was the quintessential example of what happens when the right talent meets the right opportunity. Upon his return to Apple, he led that company to what it is today, the most valuable company in the world. And yet, behind every iconic leader and every iconic company, there's an entire team of talent. Certainly Apple was no different, and Steve Jobs was the first to recognize that, acknowledging the efforts of a world-class group of computer scientists when recognizing the success of Apple's first signature product, the Macintosh. Steve Jobs was certainly not alone in talking about or understanding the value of talent. The world's great CEOs, the great companies, all seem to agree that talent is the single most important driver of long-term value creation within their companies. And LinkedIn is no exception. Talent is our #1 priority. It's also the business that we're in, connecting talent with opportunity at massive scale. When we talk about connecting talent with opportunity, we don't just mean enabling people to find their dream jobs. We're also talking about providing them the tools to be great at the jobs that they're already in. This value proposition, it colors everything that we do, starting with our mission statement: to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. And by far and away, the most important word in this mission is professionals. It's our exclusive area of focus. There's only a handful of companies that can connect hundreds of millions, if not billions of people around the world in milliseconds. LinkedIn is the only one of those companies with an exclusive focus on professionals, and that continues to serve our members and our customers well. This mission statement manifests itself in all of our day-to-day operations, starting with our members. We're a members-first organization, and the value that we deliver for our members, which is threefold: professional identity, professional insights, and the notion of working wherever our members work. For those of you who have been with us now for several years, you'll find these three value propositions very familiar. They're our core focus, and we continue to prioritize these areas really without much change. What has changed, however, is the rate of innovation taking place at LinkedIn. We are now introducing new products and better products at the fastest rate in the company's history, and I'm looking forward to walking you through some of those recent product introductions. So let's go a little deeper into each of these three areas, and we'll start with professional identity, which lies at the heart of the ecosystem on LinkedIn. That begins with our profile page, the professional profile of record. The way in which professionals reflect their experiences, their skills, and their ambitions to the rest of the world, the way they build their professional brand. And increasingly as a result of that, it's the way in which folks like you are able to search and find those members and provide them opportunities. And not surprisingly, given the ability to make a match like that, we're at an annualized run rate to generate over 5 billion professionally oriented searches on this year alone. Bear in mind, when we talk about those searches, we're not just talking about job seekers looking for their dream jobs. or recruiters looking for the perfect candidate. We're also talking about entrepreneurs who are looking to raise financing. We're talking about salespeople looking to convert cold calls into warm prospects. And we're talking about professionals of all kinds who are looking to tap one another's knowledge and expertise so they can be better at the jobs that they're already in. And as a result of these use cases and many more, we're seeing something happening on LinkedIn that really hasn't occurred at scale before. People are updating their profiles when they're not looking for work. Think about that for a second. When was the last time you updated your resume when you weren't looking for a job? And that dynamic, that is at the heart of what creates value for you, our recruiter partners, because you're able to find people, passive candidates, in a way you never could before. Recognizing the importance of this dynamic, we continue to invest heavily in making it easier than ever for our members to update their profiles, regardless of whether or not they're looking for a job. And we've got some new products that we're excited to talk to you about. We recently introduced a product called Endorsements. And for some time now, members have had the ability to put their skills on their profile pages. Now, for the first time ever, those members' connections can endorse those skills. And you can see a real-life example here where Steve Cadigan, our head of talent, was endorsed by Dan Shapiro for public speaking. Steve is going to be coming up shortly to do some public speaking, so we're all going to have an opportunity to see if that's an accurate endorsement. No pressure, Steve. But think about the importance of this as recruiters, the signal this sends. Because when I put a skill on my profile, that's one thing, but when someone I'm connected to corroborates my expertise, that's altogether different. It's really valuable. So if I were to click on Steve's name here, I'm going to end up on his profile, and as I scroll down to the bottom of his profile, I'm going to see all the other skills that he's been endorsed for, things like team building and human resources. And the beauty of this experience is that we've removed all the friction, all the things that used to prevent people from making recommendations. It's now seamless, so I can just click a button and endorse Steve myself. We've also seen an interesting dynamic where people are expressing their appreciation for one another in unique and creative ways. They're suggesting skills that people may not have had on their profile. And you can see here, and this is actually happening, 3 people have suggested Steve for awesomeness. I checked earlier, I could not find the skill humility, Steve, which may explain why you embraced the awesomeness. Steve's actually a very humble guy. Speaking of awesomeness, this product is off to an incredibly strong start. And despite the fact we have only launched in the United States 3 weeks ago, we're already seeing as many as 8 million daily endorsements. So it's great to see the progress that we've made. They're very exciting. That's one of many changes we've made to the profile experience. Another would be the top portion of that page, which we continue to simplify and make more intuitive to use. This is an example of the profile for Mayor Cory Booker. Cory is going to be our keynote speaker tomorrow morning, and for those of you that don't know Cory, he is a rising star within the government, and I've had a chance to listen to Cory speak, and I can tell you without question he's one of the most inspiring public speakers I've ever heard. And so looking forward to seeing you all there and listening to Cory talk about how one person can change the world. So let's say Cory, in anticipation of his keynote, wants to make sure his profile is up to speed. He comes to his profile and he'll see a very clear call to action to improve his profile. We've never made it that simple before. And as a result of changes like that and the addition of endorsements, we're now seeing greater than 100% growth in the number of unique members editing their profile day in and day out, over 2x. Now trust me when I tell you this is not an increase off of a small number. This represents a lot of members. And again, this is how we continue to make sure those profiles are relevant and fresh and create value for folks like you. Despite the fact that we're very excited about these changes, you ain't seen nothing yet. So coming soon, in the not too distant future, next few weeks, we are going to be unveiling the biggest change in the history of the LinkedIn profile. And we couldn't be more excited about that, so stay tuned. All of this profile information, this rich data, enables us to do a few different things. One, we can better serve your needs in terms of surfacing the most qualified passive candidates. The other is the better we understand the needs of our members, what it is they're trying to accomplish, who they are, who they're connected to, we can ensure we leverage that data to get the right business intelligence in front of the right member at the right time. and enable them to be great at the jobs they're already in. A perfect example of that is our new homepage experience, where again, we have simplified the look and feel, making it more intuitive to find the most professionally relevant conversations and knowledge. And that's important because we have a tremendous amount of information flowing through what has essentially become our members' professional dashboards. Over 2 billion network updates are flowing through our system on a weekly basis. And so to continue to simplify the process of making it easier for people to be able to tap the most relevant information, we recently introduced notifications. Now this enables members who've recently shared content to see what actions people are taking on that content. Are they resharing it, commenting, or liking? It's really important that when people are sharing, taking the time to do that, that they can feel heard. And that creates a very positive feedback loop. And as a result of that, we've seen very significant growth in the number of social gestures taking place on LinkedIn. Over 100% in terms of comments and liking and reshares just in the last several months alone. Speaking of being excited about new product launches, we recently introduced a product that has everybody buzzing, and that is 2 new capabilities. The ability to follow certain members of LinkedIn, and for those same members to be able to express themselves and publish in long form, not be limited to a few words in a status update. And here you can see a great example of this, Richard Branson, who recently joined the Influencers program. And we've only been up for about a week and a half now, and already Richard Branson has nearly 300,000 followers. If you were to scroll down this post that he put up, his first post on building businesses and lessons he's learned, you'll see that in that same week and a half period, he's already generated nearly 12,000 likes and over 5,000 comments. And that's the kind of engagement we're looking for, and that's what's possible when we have people like Richard Branson and the President and Mitt Romney and Arianna Huffington and over 150 global luminaries sharing content. Again, off to a strong start with over 2 million people follows in the last week and a half alone. You know, it's one thing to talk about being the essential source of professional insights. It's still another when you actually come to our site and you see a post from the President of the World Bank talking about how the world can eradicate poverty or be successful in starting social movements. Or you see a post from the President of the United States talking about how to restart the economy, or Richard Branson talking about how to build a business. And it's then that you begin to understand what's possible when we see a knowledge-sharing engine of this magnitude come to life. And the best news is, we've literally only just begun. So, we want to make sure that professional identity and insights and all of the valuable assets being produced as a result of those value propositions are working wherever our members work. And that means in an age of increasing mobility, people are no longer tethered to their desktops, so we continue to invest in our mobile solutions. Smartphone apps, tablet apps, and as a result of this investment, we've seen a very sharp increase in mobile usage of LinkedIn. Over 23% of weekly visits to LinkedIn are now happening through mobile, and that's up from 10% this time a year ago. When we talk about this notion of everywhere, it's not just about mobility. It's also about pushing our assets off of LinkedIn.com to third-party publishers and developers. We want to increasingly power the professional web, and we do that through our buttons, our widgets, and our APIs. Tools like Apply with LinkedIn, for example, that now exists on thousands of companies' websites. And increasingly, we're hearing stories from customers like you where that data is being integrated, again, through APIs, with your ATS solutions and with your HRIS tools. And as a result, we now see over 75,000 developers leveraging our APIs. And we invite you to continue to do so and get creative with those integrations. Professional identity, professional insights, and working wherever our members work. This is the value we deliver for our members day in and day out. And as a result, we've been able to reach critical mass, the largest professional network in the world with over 175 million members, growing at a rate of over 2 signups per second. Since the last time we got together in this same exact venue, we've added 50 million members. And to put that into perspective, it took the company 6 years to add its first 50 million members. Yet it's still very early days, 175 million members today, and yet by some measures, there's north of 600 million knowledge workers in the world, over 3.3 billion people in the global workforce. And together, with your help, we'd like to create economic opportunity for every one of them. So this is the value we deliver for individual members. I'd now like to turn to what we can do for you and your companies. And what we want to do is change the way your companies work. And this is going to happen in 3 ways. We want to change the way you hire, change the way you market, and change the way your companies sell. Hire, market, and sell. Today, I'd like to dig a little deeper on something that's obviously very relevant and germane for this audience, and that, of course, is hiring, and the changes taking place as a result of your vision and the LinkedIn platform. So let's tell a little story here called a play with 3 acts, and we'll start with Act 1. Act 1 is a transition from post and pray, a world where you would post a job and be flooded with hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes, and pray that among those active candidates you'd find the perfect person. And through the fact that we now have 175 million members and our recruiter tool that enables you to do passive candidate recruiting at scale across virtually any variable imaginable, you now can find exactly the right person, more efficiently, more effectively than ever before. Case in point, Conagra, looking for a food scientist with a specialization in popcorn. And you can see here, if you read the fine print, this particular candidate is also certified at Reiki, Japanese or Asian healing, so if someone eats too much popcorn, she can take care of them as well. If you are in the aerospace industry and you were recently inspired by the fact that we landed a rover on Mars, you could do a search for the engineers responsible for that, and sure enough, you'd find the chief engineer who made that mission possible. Now, before I get a call from NASA, please do not send this candidate emails until they are done the project. We still have a ways to go there. These are great examples of how together we are completely changing the game in recruiting. And not surprisingly, we now have north of 12,000 organizations leveraging our recruiter tools. Which brings us to Act 2. What do you do with all of these extremely relevant and valuable candidates, all of these prospects you now have in your pipeline? What we heard historically was that you were using spreadsheets and Post-it notes. And so that's why we introduced last year at this very same event, Talent Pipeline. A new application built into Recruiter that enables you to, for example, integrate resumes you're finding from third-party sources and cross-referencing them with a LinkedIn profile. Then tagging the information, organizing it, and sharing it with other people within your companies. We're off to a very strong start with Talent Pipeline. Already we've seen over 50% of our recruiter customers activating this very valuable tool. And day in and day out, we continue to hear new use cases from all of you. And we're looking forward to continuing to invest in what is truly becoming a real enabling platform. Okay, Act 1, Act 2, let's talk Act 3. What's next? Well, time and time again, as we talk to all of you, our recruiter customers and partners, what we're hearing is that you want to build your talent brand. You want to define for the world why your company is the best place to work. We recently conducted a survey and found that 80% of recruiters believe talent branding will be absolutely essential to their recruiting strategies, and 50% of recruiters are going to be spending more on talent branding in 2012. A great example, I was talking to VP of HR at Microsoft last night, Scott Potofsky. Scott's been with Microsoft for 11 years, and he has never been more excited about what's going on than now because of the number of new innovations and breakthrough products and the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation taking place there. And he was saying, I've got to be able to tell this story to our prospects. I want to be able to reflect to everyone that Microsoft is working on the future every day. And so what do people like Scott and people like you need to be able to tell your talent branding stories? Well, for starters, you need a big audience. And ideally in this day and age, that would be a connected audience. So you can amplify your message through the power of virality. You also want to be able to target specific prospects, increase your effectiveness. And you want to be able to engage those targeted prospects, to build relationships with them over time. Perhaps most importantly, what we're hearing from the world's best recruiters is that they're increasingly thinking like the world's best marketers. The good news is that LinkedIn isn't just changing the game in recruiting, we're changing the game in marketing as well. And blue chip marketers like HP are using our company profile pages to build their brand. They're using display media to target exactly the right member. And they're using status updates to engage with those members. So I know what you must be thinking at this point. You had to transition from post and pray and learn new skills, sourcing, pipelining. And just when you got that down, and you've got the best demonstrated practices of recruiters, we're now saying you've got to start to act like the best of marketers in the world in terms of branding and targeting and engagement. And some of you at this point must be thinking to yourself, "This guy think I am, a bionic recruiter?" Well, fortunately,
we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
So at the risk of dating myself here, that was from the introduction of a very popular television show in the 70s called The $6 Million Man. Inflation adjusted, that would probably be about $6 billion today. There was a touch of science fiction in that. But the good news is that while that bionic man was using technologies that didn't exist necessarily, we have the technology to enable you to do this. More importantly, we have the assets and we have the people. People like Brendan Brown, who helps lead our recruiting team and is borrowing from the best demonstrated practices of both recruiters and marketing to take our recruiting game to the next level. So today, we'd like to introduce 3 tools for you that are going to help you with your branding, your targeting, and your engagement, and increasingly make this a reality. And the first of those is going to focus on this notion of talent branding. And when I think about talent branding, one of the first things that comes to mind is one of my favorite business axioms. This is from a colleague of mine, David Henke, who heads up our operations. He and his team make sure our site is running smoothly every day. He runs a tight ship, and as David likes to say, if you can't measure it, you can't fix it. And that doesn't just hold for production operations. It really holds for any business practice where you want to see improvement over time. And with regard to your talent brand, you want to understand where you're starting, you want to deploy the right tools, and then measure your progress over time. And that's why we're so excited to introduce for the first time ever the Talent Brand Index from LinkedIn. And it's one thing to talk about the change in our product portfolio, the changes to the LinkedIn platform, even the changes to the recruiting industry, but I think it's really important when talking about change at an industry level that we don't lose sight of the people whose lives are being transformed the most through these changes, the individuals using LinkedIn. And I'm incredibly fortunate to be on the receiving end of dozens of emails and in-mails every week with their stories. The recent film school graduate who could not be more excited about the fact that she just closed financing for her first film. The small business founder in Ireland who's generating millions of dollars in international revenue through prospects and relationships he built exclusively on LinkedIn. The unemployed mother, out of work for months and fearful she wasn't going to be able to find another job given the difficult macro climate, and not only found work, she found her dream job. And then there are the stories from people like you, our customers, recruiters, whose careers have been transformed by virtue of the fact that you've enabled your companies to change the way they bring in world-class talent. Today, I'd like to flip this model of gratitude around a bit. It's important you recognize that when we talk about changing the game at LinkedIn, we're just providing the platform, a platform that enables you to truly change the industry. You, the visionaries. You with the conviction to work every day to evangelize what recruiting should be, what it could be, and then making it happen. And in a world where recruiting and talent has become more important than ever before, recognize that you're not just changing the game in recruiting, you're changing the way the world works. And for that, we at LinkedIn would like to thank you.